why don't we talk to Emmanuel
Dude,
in
yes.
Texas,
Yes.
who says that atheism is incomprehensible to average people. Emmanuel, you are live on Truth Wanted.
This is great.
Okay, how are you guys?
Hey, man, how you doing?
How you doing? Well, I was just like, like I had all these thoughts, and I was like, I don't like call to this like atheist people and like maybe like give a challenge. And what I was thinking was like when I see like the worldview of like atheism, it's just like it starts and it ends. And it's just like one sentence, and I can't get an implication from that worldview. It's just like, oh, there is no deity, and we don't have like any evidence, and that's it. So I was like, that doesn't even like make any sense because like if you see, for example, if you see like any religion, any world religion, it has a implication. Like, what are the things that you need to do? What happens after death? Uh, who could you sleep with, or what things could you speak? There are a lot of things that are like black and white, but like atheism is just like, oh, there's no evidence that there's no creator, so we deny, we reject that claim, and that's it. So it's just like, how does that make sense?
So that's certainly what some atheists believe. Some atheists have different claims that they make or that they fail to make for different reasons. It sounds like you have a problem with atheism not dictating how people live their lives. Is that what is bothering you?
I'm saying it's just way up there that for an average person to endorse such a view. It's like if you just talk to like, for example, like my father, I don't even think that he will understand the things that you say. Like some of the words that you say, you just said. I know that.
Why do you think that is?
Words.
Yeah, I agree. That's a problem.
I think.
Yeah.
I don't even think like you guys know what you guys believe. It's just like
no, you can't. No.
Well, like let's sort one thing out, right? Okay, so atheism is just an answer to one question, right? It's a statement about a position on one specific, entity. An atheist, under typical definitions, will lack a belief in a god or gods. Someone like Richard Dawkins would say that, Christians are atheists towards most of the gods that have ever existed. And then the people who everyone else calls atheists just go one god further. So you could say that atheists reject or don't have beliefs with respect to any god. Some atheists will say that they actively disbelieve in any gods. Someone like Dan, I think, defines himself as an atheist, saying that he doesn't believe in any described gods, if I'm quoting him correctly, but it's better to hear it directly from him. But back to you, I think your question, Emmanuel, is, you seem to think that this lack of dictating aspects of how people should live their lives is foreign. It's like a foreign notion to the average person. And I don't disagree. And I think Jason was indicating his agreement with that as well.
Yep.
But my question to you, Emmanuel, is why do you think it's such a foreign notion to people? Why do you think that that's so odd that people don't get it?
It's just what I think is like I've seen a lot of like worldview. I've shifted my worldview so many times. I've been I have rejected claims of the Bible, and I have become a Mennonite Christian, then become a Pentecostal, then endorsed Calvinism at some point of my life. Now I identify as a progressive Calvinistic Pentecostal. So it's like in all the views that I've had in the past, there are some rules that I need to follow. There are some documents that I need to accept on face value. So, like, even when I was a Mennonite, I'm not a Mennonite right now, I'm Pentecostal Calvinist, but even when I was a Mennonite, I know what things to wear, what things to say, what things will get me to heaven.
Right.
Even though I shifted my rules, there's just like, if I became a person who does not believe in God, it's just like, I don't see, like what am I supposed to do? It's just like, I don't even have.
So I think you have identified something that I think you've identified as something that we talk about a lot, which is atheism is not a worldview per se, right?
Yep.
Like people, particularly theists, like to call in and say, under an atheist worldview, XYZ. As you've identified, Emmanuel, there is no uniform atheist worldview. You could have a secular humanist worldview. You could have an environmentalist worldview. You could have a utilitarian worldview. All of these are different, ways of looking at the world. I think that the thing that you're struggling with is the fact that atheism, a lack of belief in gods, does not prescribe any particular behavior.
Yep.
And I think that you're finding that weird, and maybe many people find that odd. I think the reason for that is because religion has poisoned the well.
Mm-hmm.
They've made it so that, religions have made it so that everyone expects that a belief about a higher power, a deity, whatever, to come with directives. And that's just that the way that people have been raised for generations and generations.
Yep.
They've been, if you will, indoctrinated to believe that a belief in, what you believe about the creator of the universe also dictates what kind of food you should eat, whether or not you can blend or mix fabrics or whatever that last guy was talking about, blending and mixing.
Yeah.
When really there's nothing that inherently necessitates those two things to be connected, right? There's no actual reason why a theoretical creator of the universe would care or should care about what we do to each other, or really anything. There's nothing to say that a theoretical creator should or could care about anything at all. So I think that you've correctly identified, Emmanuel, the fact that people are indoctrinated to believe that there is this link, when I don't think that there necessarily is. What do you think?
I don't understand the question. Can you clarify a little bit more?
What do you think of my proposal that the reason people are confused is because religions have, over the years, indoctrinated people into thinking that a belief about God should come with directives about how to live their lives?
Yeah, and that you need those directives to live. Like you have accepted the fact that I need directives to live my life on a spiritual nature. You are convinced that that is a need. That's the problem. Why do you think that is?
I do recognize that just because it's the idea is unpopular, therefore the majority of people will be confused about such proposal. Okay.
No, what it is social conditioning. Your mind has been trained and conditioned by your society, by your direct socialization agents to think in a specific pattern. So what you said, you brought up, like, I like it because it's black and white. Now, in psychology, we call that concrete operations. It is more or less described as the inability to think pragmatically, the inability to utilize dialectics, gray areas, seeing things in like somebody else's perspective, and it being stuck in black and white thinking hinders greatly the ability to critically analyze situations and be skeptical about one's environment and your own internal kind of metaphysical environment, for lack of better terms. And one thing you've pointed out, and I think you might have outed yourself, you've answered your own question. You have been around people like your family and like the groups that you're around that continually reinforce the notion that there needs to be some type of external authority dictating your life. And it seems to really scare you, and God seems to really scare you. So you're scared that, what do I do? Well, the helplessness that you've been told you were supposed to feel is a learned helplessness that has been taught. In a sense, your identity gets foreclosed and people tell you that you're helpless. But MD and I, we're both moral people who don't harm people and give our time and try to do good things. I'm a good dad, and I don't need the God thing to tell me what to do. What I need is an agreement between me and my fellow human and other animals that we're not going to harm each other. And we're going to do our best to look out for each other. And then you stick with that agreement and figure out what best increases that. I mean, it's actually a lot easier than trying to figure out what your different versions of God are saying the next year that you're a Mennonite or a Pentecostal or a Baptist. I mean, honestly, it seems like you're just living by your own morals and trying to, because now you're saying you're progressive. Well, that seems to fit more with your own personal morality, man. I mean, it's okay. You don't need a God. Nothing's going to happen, dude. You know, I mean, I don't know. What do you think about that, man?
Well, it's just that, first of all, like, I do believe that even outside of the people that I might end up harming or benefiting, like, I have took time to study the scriptures, and I do believe that one day I'll face the judgment seat of Christ. And I think it's in 2 Corinthians 5:10 that the Bible says that we shall all appear in the judgment seat of Christ. And I think that the things that I do not only harms people, but it could end up offending an eternal God. So I don't generally just view the actions that I take and the rules that I have to abide by as necessarily only end up in the consequence of society. So I don't think that the way that you just put it, like, you know, like you live for your family, or your view is just like human to human interaction. I don't view it in that kind of way. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
you know, Emmanuel, let me ask you a question.
Okay.
Why do you believe in the Bible?
Oh, that's actually a good question. I think it's in Luke 24:21 that Jesus said that we have to believe in the words of the prophets.
Well, that's the book.
Not Luke 24:21.
Right, but
I
that's
think
the
they-
Bible. That's the Bible saying that you have to believe the Bible.
Yeah,
So
that's
why do you believe the Bible in the first place?
In the first place, it's just that. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can
we
hear
can
you.
hear you, bud. Yeah.
Okay, so what I think is, because I've studied it individually, like, I didn't just like hear someone else preaching to me.
I understand.
read it.
My question though is
Okay.
my question is, yeah, like, to me at least, if I'm gonna decide to believe something, the origin of that belief, the validation of that belief has to come from outside of the thing.
Yep.
If you know what I mean. Like, if I'm gonna believe this biology textbook that's behind me, it has to point to something external. I'm not going to open the book and just believe what's written in the biology textbook, because inside the biology textbook it says this biology textbook describes facts. I'm going to say, well, where is it getting this information? And it's going to point to, you know, papers, and those papers are going to point to experiments that someone did that I could theoretically replicate, and some people have, but at least whose methods I could look at. So and that's sort of where my belief comes from the fact that this can all be externally validated outside of the actual book.
Yep.
So where does your belief in the Bible come from?
I believe comes from it's more of like a theory. It's just that I take the risk of faith. You know, if I believe in God and those things were not real, you know, I have nothing to lose. But if I did not believe in God and there might be a possible judgment, then I'm screwed for eternity. So I think it's much more wise decision to actually believe these things and become incorrect instead of like rejecting the claims.
Do you know what that's called, Emmanuel?
I know it's Pascal, but yeah.
Sorry, say it again.
It's Pascal's wager, right? So
right.
Yeah, I know the theory, and when I look at other religions from other culture, for example, I grew up like in Ethiopia, which is half and half Christianity, half Islam, and when I look at other religions, it's just like mythology. That I don't even like have a tiniest bit that other religions could be true. But I know that it's possible for Christianity to be not real, but I believe that there is a chance, a high percentage chance that Christianity could be real. But I know that there is 0.1% that other religions could be true. I could just see it and I could tell that it's an ancient mythology.
So how do you come up with those? How do you come up with those numbers, Emmanuel? You said there's like, you say all around it, say, and you think there's a 99% chance that Christianity is real. Where did you get that 99% chance? How did you calculate that number?
Yeah, versus the other religion.
Or no religion.
For example, if you look at Islam claims that the creator God cannot manifest in the flesh. So,
well, what if it's a God that, like, what if it's a God that we haven't heard of? You know, there's no existing religion that describes the truth, or maybe it's no religion. Like, how do you? My question is, like, how did you calculate the 99%? What makes you that confident in Christianity?
Because first of all, Christianity is very consistent with the Old Testament. So if we had no New Testament and apostles telling us, but I can pull out a verses in the Old Testament. Okay, I'm sorry.
So the Bible is the Old and New Testament. So what MD's trying to get at, man, is that we have to verify outside. Like if I have a code book at work and it says I have to do a certain test and a certain thing, and then somebody calls me and says, "Hey, Jason, we passed the test." I can't just take their word for it. I need to go bring my code book with me, see the test that they did, make sure it matches up, make sure everything's calibrated. I have to do all this stuff to verify external of somebody saying this test passed. So what MD's asking is what's external.
What if like but here's the thing. But the case is if you deny these claims, the possibility is eternal torture. And
no. Okay, sure. So we can talk about Pascal's wager for a second, Emmanuel. Like obviously this only really works.
If the Bible is incorrect, then I die believing wrong things. But if the Bible is true and I deny it, I'll be in a place where I don't have any kind of.
But what if it's a different religion?
Yeah.
What if it's like you didn't choose to believe in Zeus, so you go to Hades and you go to the underworld where you're guarded by Cerberus and like all these, like Pascal's wager in part is sort of a false dichotomy, where it's saying, well, if I'm wrong, then I'll just rot in the ground. It's like that's only if you're comparing Christianity versus atheism.
Yep.
Right? Or specifically a version of atheism where there is no afterlife of any kind and no judgment.
Well,
but there are other, theoretical possibilities that are not ruled out and not addressed by Pascal's wager.
and if I may, one other thing I'd like to bring up, I just want to point out, you admitted that there could be a chance that it's not true. So that means you don't 100% believe in it. So by admitting that, you're showing that you don't believe, and you have to believe in your heart and confess with your mouth. So if you're not 100% convinced, you don't fully, but you're saying there's actually a chance. I don't understand how. I just don't understand that. Like, you're saying there has to be a chance, but I believe in it. But there could be I don't know. Doesn't there need to be 100% certainty? Because ultimately, if the God you're talking about knows your mind and knows your heart and knows and has all those omnis that Descartes presented and all that stuff, then that God already knows that you don't believe. And just pretending, like just confessing with your mouth, doesn't get you. Believing in your heart and confessing in your mouth is what gets you there. So I think acting that way is actually very dishonest. And I think that a God would know that and would much more respect somebody who's not lukewarm and respect somebody who's cold, like myself and MD, because it's a lukewarm that they spit out of his mouth. So that's all I got to say about that.
What do you think, Emmanuel?
Well, what I think is I do believe, but it's not like I could show you. It's not like we could go to the laboratory and like.
No, that's
I
I didn't
show
say
you
that.
that Christ is. No. I understand.
We're not even really asking for that, though.
I never
right?
asked for that. I never said that. I never even brought that up.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, since I have never seen it, the only thing that I could do as a person is I could trust in Christ and receive forgiveness for my sins. That's
no,
because I have sinned, right? We have. Okay.
You can't even demonstrate Christ to yourself. So you can't even, Hobbes even argues against Descartes in this, that the idea of a concept of a God is dishonest in itself. I'm more of an atheist because to me, it's totally incoherent. You can't even point to the Christ that you don't even fully believe in, that you don't even know its properties. You're just saying you have faith in a thing that is now a supposed mental construct that you have to pull from other references in life to describe. It's only analogous, and you can't even point to the reference, so you're not even justified in saying that you have a concept of the thing you say you believe in, man. And like I said, you admitted you don't even believe in it 100%, thus making you lukewarm. And God warns about that. If you believe in this, your God warns against that in Revelation, man. I think that should be more dealt with than whatever science thing you said to me.
Okay. Well, actually, that's actually a good description. I would not say that I'm agnostic, though. I still do identify as atheist. So, okay.
It seems like you're agnostic, man. I mean, I feel like you just admitted that. Maybe I'm wrong, but I didn't say you were agnostic. You just said you were maybe. Come on, bro. I mean, I don't mean to call you out, man, but I mean, honestly, I've listened to you talk a lot, man, and I've listened to your discussions, and I just think that it's interesting that fear seems to be your biggest motivator. And I don't mean to analyze you on here, but if fear is a motivator, that's terrible, and I feel bad.
I mean, I think if I can circle us back to sort of how we started this call, this notion that you brought up, Emmanuel, of atheism not fitting into what people typically expect from a worldview or a belief system with respect to deities. As I said, I think that's coming from a lot of like the poisoning the well that religion has done to society over the centuries, millennia. And kind of that is what makes young atheists so annoying, because they have this like, oh my God moment, right? Where they feel like their mind has been freed. Mm-hmm. They see the code in the matrix. They mentally break free of all of these barriers that society has put up, these expectations that society has placed that say, no, you can't run your own life. You can't make your own decisions. You need to have a belief in a God, and that belief in a God informs how you live your life, down to like the most minute aspects: what you do to your hair, who you marry, how you run your relationship, who's in charge, what clothes you wear, all of these things. And the atheists, when a lot of people become atheists, they will realize that they can throw out all of those societal expectations and those societal norms. And that is why people feel very freed after they have deconstructed.
Mhm.
And I think, Emmanuel, you are potentially in a position to start asking some really interesting questions of yourself. And it sounds like you are accepting of the fact that you may have some element of uncertainty. And I think that if I were you, I would examine that, why you have that uncertainty, what the other options could be, and really think about why you have the beliefs that you have. Is it because you're looking for structure in your life because society has told you that you need this structure from a religion? Or is it because of something else, right? Do you think maybe you could decide how to live your life on your own and you don't need to have someone else putting these values upon you? What do you think, Jason?
I think that breaking of free from that social, cultural indoctrination is extremely, extremely hard. We've seen recent studies come out of Rice University showing how extreme indoctrination literally rewires your brain, and it makes things like, again, critical thinking stuff. I mean, so we're talking study after study of correlations between religious belief and believing in fake news and conspiracy theories, and believing in harmful things and social decay, all those things. So I think we can all be really skeptical looking outside of ourselves, but when you turn that skepticism inwards, which I think Emmanuel's doing by calling in and having a couple ruthless atheists kind of chew into him about his stuff, I definitely commend you, Emmanuel, for calling in and talking to us.
Yeah.
Because these are hard fucking questions. And if I would recommend anything, little RFR plug, recovering from religion is not just for atheists. If you are dealing with religious questions and you want to talk with people who have experience, call in and talk with some of the folks there. They're good people. Or if anything, reach out to a counselor or a therapist, because whenever you start digging this shit out, it's fucking rough. I know it took me about 5 years to even out after I deconstructed. I mean, I was a youth pastor and got involved in some culty stuff and led praise and worship, and it took a long time and a lot of hard feelings and a lot of, internalized homophobia and weird shit, that I still deal with at 42, 20 years later. So I applaud you for having these hard conversations, man.
If I could say, though, I don't want to ruin I don't want to ruin the conversation, but I have to say this. If you are a youth pastor,
don't.
And you're a Christian, I believe that you are still saved.
Okay, so that's okay. You have to understand that that's extremely. Hey, so I appreciate that, but not really. I know where you're coming from, so I appreciate it. But I just want to let you know, bro, for later stuff, that's really fucking offensive, man. If Jesus was real, I don't want to be around that son of a. Just fuck that guy, man. Because as far as I'm concerned, the story of Jesus is one of the greatest versions of gaslighting that I've ever seen. So while you may see things like "I'll pray for you, God bless you," I feel like you're still saved. I openly reject anything involving a Holy Spirit or anything like that. And the Holy Spirit can go fuck itself, and Virgin Mary sucks. So, I covered all bases right there. So just so you know, I'm not saved, bro. And I wouldn't want it if it was offered to me on a silver platter with chocolate on top. So I appreciate it, but don't ever say that to me again. Love you.
Okay.
We do appreciate your call, Emmanuel. We've been chatting for about a half hour, so we're gonna move on. But genuinely, we appreciate your call, and you've called several times, and we appreciate it every time.